Hi everybody, I hope you're all there. Welcome to Ask Jenny K. The subject of this video is, block rescue 411, or how to save a busted block. Because we all have them, those blocks, like you make them, right? This is 5.5, that one's 5.5, the next one's 5.5, the next one is 4, or like 5.25. And what are you going to do? How are you going to fix that without having to do over everything again? So I want to tell you just a couple things. First, housekeeping things. Oh yeah, I'm going to show you 4 steps that you can take to save a busted block. So I wanted to let you guys know that on Friday at Quilt University, Craft U, I'm going to be doing a webinar on binding. So if you're interested on that, you can check more on my Facebook page. It'll have links and how to get there, or on the newsletter that I sent out. And I'll tell you just a little bit here. This block, just a little show and tell. This quilt is called Window View, and it was published in, it's my design, and it was published in American Quilter Society magazine earlier this year. And I have to thank my gal Tracy, who handles a lot of the quilting stuff, and she, when I was sick, she pieced this together. She finished piecing it together, and then she quilted it for me and got it sent off. So Tracy, you're awesome. I'll put the link, I'll put your information in the comments below. And, oh, look at this. Look at this wonderful quilt. Again, this is my thank you pattern. How many circles is what it's called. It's my thank you pattern for anybody who signs up for my newsletter. So take a chance. It's a free pattern. You'll enjoy it. And my newsletter, I try to keep lots of good stuff in there to keep it nice and exciting and informative and entertaining. I hope it's all those things. I hope it's all those things. All right, so let's get started. How to fix a busted block. Block rescue 411. Emergency rescue. All right. So here's, I mean, not that I've ever had it happen to me, but, you know, I've heard about it. I've heard that people make mistakes when they put the quilts together. Can't fix them. So, of course, it's happened to me. It happened to me all the time. Okay, so here's kind of my sample block that I'm using, right? Very simple, churn dash, and you can see it's got a few little issues. A little issue there up at the top. But if you're measuring out exactly, it might not fit. So the first thing that I tell students to do, press it again. Because you may not have pressed everything nice and flat like it needs to be. You may be just a little bit off. So press it again, try one more time to press it, and then check. Then check and see how it is. Oops, hang on. Sorry about that. Gotta fix my microphone. All these electrical cords, I'm just not used to it. Okay, then the second thing, so first step, press it one more time. Then the second thing that I want you to do, that you would want to do, is look at here's the front of the block. Look at the block forensically. Let's see what's going on behind there. And you might see, oh, I'm off just a little bit on this one part. You know what? I can rip that tiny bit out and do it again. I mean, I'm not a fan of the seam ripper, but when you have to use it, you got to use it, right? So I have no problem doing that and ripping out just that little bit to put it back together, if that might be just enough to save your block. The third thing, now, we shy away from using any kind of steam and moisture when we're quilting, but I will tell you, I have used it to save more than one block on more than one occasion. So what I do, in fact, I have a really big bottle, see? I'm not messing around when I'm spraying. So what I would do, you want to use steam. I'll use this spray bottle and heat to do that. Now, fabric is its most malleable, most flexible when you steam it and when it's hot. So when you put water on it and when it's hot, it's the most likely to stretch, and you can change it. So we're going to use that to our advantage at this point. So what I would do is I would lay this little block out on my ironing board, and I would spray that sucker. I'm just wetting it all down, and I'm not messing around when I do that, and I'm pretty much going to soak it, and then I'm going to take my nice hot iron, and I'm going to press that out. And I'm going to, as I press it, I'm going to pull, and I'm going to stretch a little bit, trying to get it back to the size. Now, I don't want to, you don't want to do something like this, where you pull it entirely, completely out of shape. You want to avoid that. But if your object is to make it stretch just a little bit more, sometimes that can be enough to do it. doing that stretch. So when I've spritzed it real well with water and I've pressed it and it's real hot, I'm going to stretch it out on my board as best I can, and I'm going to let it dry. Don't touch it. Just let it dry. Check on it maybe, and you might find that, that's enough. I don't need to do another block. So you might find that that is enough to take care of your issue. So that would be the next thing I would try. All right, number 4. Now I know a 1/4 inch seam allowance is important. I mean, we talked about it just a couple episodes ago, right? But desperate times, my friend, sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. And maybe you just ignore the seam allowance. I know. It's crazy talk, Jenny. I know, but trust me. Okay, so what I would do in that situation, right? Oops, let me open up my pins. There we go. What I would do in that situation. So you see here on this top, right? It's just enough off that it would be a problem. So what I would do then, when I'm pinning it up with my block here, right? That's the block I want to match it to. I'm going to pin it on one side. Okay, so I pinned it there, and I'm going to pin it on this side, right? And I may stretch it a little bit as I pull, right? Kind of stretch it. Oh, that's another tip. Okay, tip number 5. Tip number 5 is that if something's a little baggier, like one block is a little baggier, if you put it on the bottom where it's brushing up on the feed dogs, and they're just going nom 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 nom, then you can sometimes stretch that bottom block just enough. So that's a bonus tip for you. I'm glad you tuned in. Okay, so I'm looking at it here, and you can see there's just a little bit of difference here. But instead of saying, okay, I have to stitch a 1/4 inch from this top, I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to stitch a 1/4 inch from up here. Scandalous, I know. It will leave a tiny bit, but if it is in that, if it is within a 1/4 inch, say you've got an 1/8 inch left there, that's all right, man. Pin it. I would pin it and go, or pin it and sew, as the case may be. So I would pin it, I'd line it up, and even though it's a little bit, might be a little dip there, that's okay. You're gonna run with it. I mean, who's gonna be looking at the back of your quilt anyways? I mean, it's gonna be all tucked in with the batting and stuff. I know, we want to get it right, but you know, sometimes you're desperate. Sometimes you have desperate times, and you want something to work out. So those are now my 5 steps. 5 steps of how to fix a block. Press it one more time. Examine the back of the block. It might be a simple mistake that you can fix quickly. Press it with spray and let it dry. And number 4, ignore the seam allowances, pin in place. And number 5, if something's just a little baggy, put the baggy one on the bottom, and it can ease them together and make that work. All right. So those are my tips for you. Be sure, I would love to have you guys join me at the webinar, because there's going to be a question and answer period at the end. I'm going to be talking about my most asked for technique, my all machine binding, which is really nice, really lovely. In fact, I think this one is finished with all machine binding. I think so. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I did a pretty good job there. Yeah. So that one is finished that way, and so is the big blue one. How many circles? But so I'll show you that technique, and I would love it if you tune in and bring your questions, because there's going to be like a 15-minute answer period at the end, and if nobody has any questions, then it's just going to be like crickets, and I'm not going to know what to say or anything like that. So post in your comments if you've come up with a unique way to make a block work when it hasn't before, or other ways that you've rescued stuff when you haven't been able to work with it before. Next episode, next week, we're going to talk about quilting terms. We're going to come to terms with quilting. There's a lot of, initials out there. What do they mean? What is it for? What does it look like? I know it's pretty basic stuff, but sometimes you read it over and over again and you just don't know what it is. So we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about those terms. Let me know if you guys have any questions, any things that you want me to cover, any ideas and like questions that you have or issues that you keep coming up with. I would love to answer your questions. Thank you again so much for joining me. Please visit my website, jennykquilts.com, and you can check me out on Facebook and Instagram as well under the same names. And hey, again, thanks for being here. I'll see you guys next time.